Okay, now we're at the point where we're ready to start juggling with 3 balls. We've practiced tossing 1 up in the air. We've practiced working with 2, tossing and catching. And now we're going to go on to 3. The basic idea of tossing 3 is that you're going to do the same thing you did with 2. You'll start tossing this one up in the air. When it's about to land, you'll toss that one up in the air. And when that one's about to land, you'll toss this one up in the air. So it'll look a little bit like this. Toss, toss, toss. You really, with juggling at first, you can make it so that you really only have to look at 1 ball at a time. 1 ball in the air, 1 ball in the air. Okay? And then when you get a little bit more comfortable, then instead of having 1 way up in the air while you're kind of waiting for it and concentrating on 1 thing at a time, which is sort of where people start off, and that's okay. Then you'll get to the point where you feel a little bit more comfortable with it, and instead of looking like this, with 1 up in the air at a time, you start bringing it down and making it a little bit more consistent. Again, you want to concentrate on keeping your elbows in so that you're not running forward and your balls are throwing straight up in the air. And you also want to have a nice consistent height of throwing. You don't want one going up while the other one's kind of shallow, because that makes it a little bit more challenging if it's kind of all over the place. So you want to make a nice consistent juggle. Again, I'm doing the same thing, throwing one, throwing the next. Just a little bit quicker and a little bit more, smooth when you're doing it that way. All right, so it's the same thing we did before. You're tossing one, tossing the other. Tossing one, tossing the other. This will take some practice. You'll go through probably a phase of throwing it a little bit farther away from yourself or getting it balanced so that it's nice and even. But you go through those practicing with 1 ball and then with 2, and you start with the 3rd one, you should be ready to go. Now, another thing is that you want to keep, at some point you want to keep your eyes sort of forward. Because if you're watching 1 ball really, watching it really consistently as it goes through the arcs, then you're going to probably miss out on the other ones. So you've got to kind of open your eyes up a little bit so that you can see all of them at the same time. You can be focusing on one. And having said that, at some point you should feel pretty confident tossing a ball up in the air and catching it with your eyes completely closed. Because you should get the feel of how hard you're throwing them and how high that makes it go and things of that nature. So go ahead and practice that, and then we can move on to doing some pretty cool tricks.